Over the past couple weeks, you might have seen some conversations, articles, pieces from gaming journalists, videos by other content creators talking about the game. Multiple videos for some, and those conversations that I'm talking about are the ones about the state of the game. And from a player standpoint, there's a lot of validity to all of them. I plan to go over a lot of things today. Some talking points have been largely gone over. I'm going to touch on, give thoughts. Some smaller things I'm not sure that have been talked about. There's some questions that need to be asked. Some of these questions, we're not going to get an answer, but I feel that these questions are getting to a bigger picture. And I think everyone here wants best for the game to be the best that it can be. I genuinely love it. I'm going to continue to cover it. I have a lot to talk about though, lots of frustrations. The recent This Week at Bungie was a lot of good, some bad. That's going to be sprinkled in here. So let's get into it. When it comes to feedback, very important, you cover some of the 5 W's and the how. Like, why do you feel that way? And why is probably the most important one. As a player, why is this an issue? Walk through it, talk through it. How does it make you feel? Once they get the feedback, it's in the system. Something's off, changes can possibly be made. The first thing I want to talk about, the first part of the title of the video, trust, good faith, and going through the motions. Here's what I mean. The community as a whole, for a while now, has been left in the dark. I have no idea what to think, from small things to big things, and it feels like Bungie's very, very relaxed with their current content schedule, how they're doing their content, how they're shipping the content out. And here's something that I see. It's something that correlates from what we've seen in the past from them by looking at their actions, how long it takes to get things in the game, fixed in the game, the types of events. So this is a me thing, I could be way wrong. If I'm way off, that's okay. Everyone's got a right to an opinion, but I think that the core of what's going on in Destiny 2 is that Bungie is way too focused on the future than catering to what is currently there. Replayability, innovation, balance, all that, much more, all suffer because of that. They suffer. And it's felt in game. It feels like when they make something, once it's made, it's kind of over. It's on to the new thing. If something breaks on the old thing, it's like a hassle to go back and fix it. Or they'll get to it when they get to it. And you know what? It probably is a hassle. There's deadlines. They're getting a lot of things done. And the thing that's wrong with the game, maybe there's a new system, new weapon, nerf, buff, coming the following season, and the current problem that we're experiencing is going to go away. It's going to be fixed because of that. But we would never know that, and they're not going to tell us that. We're in the dark in that aspect, and that's happened before. We've been talking about invisibility for months. Well, next season, it's getting a change. That's what I mean. Going through This Week at Bungie, months back, there's some lines, yeah, we're looking into it. But like, once we know that it is going to go live season 19, let us know. Not the week before, maybe a month ago, month and a half ago. Invisibility is just an example. There's been a ton of things in Destiny. But if it's being worked on and it's close to ship, let us know ASAP. That way, the worries of the community can be put to rest. And as far as this future content, they're probably close to being done or fully done with the Lightfall stuff. Various teams are working on the seasons, season 21, 22, and so on. I don't know. But they're constantly working on stuff. There's deadlines. The release schedule and the upkeep of the current game feels like there's a major difference there. It doesn't really feel like they have time to go back or want to go back because the blood, sweat, and tears have already been poured into it. They're on to new things. Then we have things like all the job openings, things for the new IPs, all the new games that they're working on that we know nothing about, the rumored TV show. So we got new armor to make, raids, dungeons, perks, whole expansions like Lightfall, new weapons to make, new events to make, new UI things like adding in loadouts, this, that, new stories to tell. And when you start listing and thinking about it, and, this and that, this and. What I'm concerned about is right now as a player. It doesn't feel like what's already there is being paid attention to. It's more of a we'll get to it when we get to it, and when it is, it's picked at usually. We're seeing that with AE. Still glaring issues with the system. Yes, they're adding in AE mods. Air Assault's actually going to be a decent viable perk, at least it appears to be, but there's still a lot of balance with exotics in AE. There's still a lot of questions about the system. And that's with a lot of things. There's an initial drop of the system, data is collected, which feels like 6 months to a calendar year, it's picked at, and where I'm going with this, the main goal is the question, like what about right now what we're experiencing as players in the game? Like we're suffering up until it's fixed. Let's take the Crucible. Now, the painful part, the part that kind of hurts, is that Bungie looks like they made the decision a long time ago that monetary resources to get a full-fledged PvP team going is not worth it. With the pros, cons, gains, losses, a dedicated PvP team to oversee the Crucible 24/7, make new maps, all the things is not worth the resources to the overall game. They just pick at it when they can. Now, Bungie doesn't have to explain themselves. It's their sandbox. We just play in it. But not even counting the Halo DNA, the roots of PvP. PvP is a huge part of the game. Whether some of you want to admit that or not, it has been. There was a time in D1 where Trials kind of kept the game alive. It's part of the marketing and trailers, and it's a shame that a team isn't dedicated to the upkeep of that. Of course, that's an assumption that they feel like a dedicated PvP team isn't worth the money, but that's what it looks like. Again, we're in the dark, we don't know. You know the memes. There's been one new PvP map in over 1,000 days, and all the metas that went on for way too long. All the exotics that were a clear issue, they just stayed there. It's one of those, hey, we'll get to it when we get to it. It's going to be fixed 6 months later. 3 months later, when the next big update happens. And a lot of seasons, if there was just a quick, swift adjustment to 1 or 2 things, the sandbox would be better for it. Like the game that we're currently playing would be better for it, but it rarely happens. They're starting to, I'll get to that a little bit later. And again, they don't owe us an answer, but it's a very good question. We have a rework in comp coming next week, and a worry, just like airborne changes, a new system is now in place. There's no dedicated PvP team. Well, after it gets here in the game, if something breaks, how long will it take to fix it? I mean, PvP has a good amount of issues. Let's hope the comp rework moving forward to Lightfall and beyond, it really shapes up. Another system, skill-based, little tweaks here and there, it starts getting confusing. There was a quitter penalty, now there's not, just a mess. And one more thing, like timing matters. We just had the Telesto event, and I want to talk about this. I honestly feel straight up that if this Telesto event came out a couple weeks after the Bungie 30th anniversary, it would have been fine. I don't know if you remember that, but PvP after the 30th was arguably the best it's been in a long time. And with the Telesto event, only for a weekend, it's just a weekend, no big deal. But with how the population for trials is at the end of the season, and there's stuff all over Twitter and Reddit, the overall player base going down. The current sandbox in PvP, a lot of people aren't happy with it. So the timing of the Telesto event didn't sit well with a lot of people. And if the answer is, it's just a weekend, get over it, I understand, but a rebuttal is also, so is a weekend after the 30th anniversary, or a different weekend, like timing matters. Healing nades are a little bit too much in the Crucible, the lighting in PvP is way off, invisibility is still tough to see. So even though they're making changes to invisibility, it's still really hard to see on a lot of maps. Overshields and invis are running things. You can go on and on, but moving on. Following up on they're getting really comfortable with the content rollouts. Yes, sometimes we get a new dungeon, maybe a new strike. Those things are cherished. But these seasons, I mean, the seasons are bridges to the yearly comet, the big DLC every year. We're getting ready to hit season 19, the bridge into Lightfall. But the seasons are getting painfully predictable, numbingly predictable. One of my personal biggest complaints, and I understand why they did it, but there has to be another way. It's how you obtain the new exotics every season. Like, I loathe it. New chest piece for the Titan, wait until chest day for the Legend Lost sector. You go in, you do it by yourself. You can't do it with friends. Usually it's at the start of the season. So you break away from your fire team, not doing the new stuff. Hey, I can't play. I have to go do this. It's literally the only way to get the exotic. Like, I remember my first Gallarhorn in D1. Gorgon chest, Vault of Glass. You know where I got Falcon? A Legend Lost sector, by myself. Loreley Splendor Helm, a Legend Lost sector, by myself. Omni Oculus, Legend Lost sector, by myself. Secant Filaments, you get it. All of that is a blur. But I vividly remember Gallarhorn with my 5 other teammates. Everyone was hyped. Like, when I got Falcon, I don't remember what Lost sector it was. Zero clue, don't care. As I stated, we're going through the motions of a season in this MMO RPG. There's no wonder, no hype is there. Again, yes, it's a dedicated way to get an exotic, but aside from a raid exotic, Destiny 2 has never really shied away from basically giving them away for free. Like early vanilla D2 compared to D1 as a whole, as far as getting exotics, there's no comparison. So I would like an updated way to get these with friends. Next, we start getting into the 6-man activities. Sometimes they are new spaces. A lot of times they're spaces that we've already seen with different objectives. And these seasonal activities can be fun, some not so much. If the loot's there, I go for it, like Austringer. But this is the main activity for 90 or so days. 5 to 6 craftable weapons tied to the activity. You're basically playing for red borders. And hopefully the weapons hit, hopefully it's good archetypes. That way you want to do that. So you're doing all that, there's gonna be some sort of star chart at the helm that has unlocks, and these unlocks are gonna have triumphs. Some of the things are way too hard, or there's something wrong, and inevitably something's gonna get changed on that star chart in a patch note. We're gonna have a big story arc, then a weekly cutscene adding a couple lines of dialogue until the very end. End scene, Finn. Now, we have no idea what's coming in Season 19. From what we've seen, it'd be really easy to say, you know what? You're going to be getting your exotic from a lost sector. The past has shown us there's going to be a 6-man activity. We're going to have a cutscene to open up, and then lined out cutscenes every reset. That's the loop. Like, that's been it. That's what we're used to. Just going through the motions of a season. And like I said, it's go, 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 new, new, new. But with what we have, it just kind of sits. And that's incredibly frustrating. And everyone here watching this video knows the potential of Destiny. It is sky high, and when it gets low, it's time to kind of decipher why that is. I understand it takes time to develop things, it takes time to get patches in, but if the changes to linears and other things are any indication, it can be done. So as a player, in the current game that we have, I would like things to get right faster, much faster. And when you look at certain things, like I said, we've seen it in the past. It's like you're going through the next 2 months of gameplay. Something's wrong. It's going to suck. You're going to see it a lot. It's not going to be fun, but it's going to be okay in 2 months when we put that patch note in with season 17, season 18, whatever it is. No more of that. Like right now, the game needs love right now. And I'm just using those examples, but there's a ton of things that applies to. From the core things, the strikes, the public events, the voice lines of Cade 6 being in the game, Gambit, PvP rewards, innovation, the seasonal model with Lost Sectors getting your exotic, the 6-man activities. That's really the game. Strikes, public events, PvP, Gambit, seasonal activity. So anything that we can do to shake any of that up for the better with the current game that we have, if it can get some love, give it some love. Which, by the way, for those 6-man activities, like Menagerie was lightning in a bottle. It was so good. And we wanted more of it, so that's what Bungie did. But what it turned into was like every season. And while yes, we wanted more of it, like we didn't want it to be a default. I don't speak for everybody, but that's how I feel. And shortly after Menagerie came out, there was the Sundial. And I remember players like vividly upset, like not liking Sundial because it was nothing like Menagerie. But I bet you would love to go play Sundial instead of some of these seasonal activities. I bet you would. Because Sundial was actually really good. It just had like an insurmountable hill to climb because of Menagerie. Moving on, and with what I'm getting ready to say, there's going to be a statement right after this. From what I've seen, like the weapons and ability team, they've been crushing it. Multiple sandbox updates to weapons, exotic systems, perks. We just had a meaty this week at Bungie. We're getting mid-season changes, like faster than we ever have. Like I said, we had the linear fusion flinch nerf come out before season 19, that way that the Crucible played better. Never happened that fast in the past. And when I keep saying like the game right now needs love, like with what we're currently playing, it's things like that right there, exactly what I mean. But it needs to be for everything. If a dungeon has an issue, fix it and fix it fast. It's what we're playing right now. Like I know the dungeon team is working on a new dungeon. Of course we want that, but we also want the one that we're playing to be fixed. The follow-up statement on how the weapons ability team that they're crushing it, they are. A lot of that is because it's tangible and we see it. We see it in game, we see it this week at Bungie, but there's probably a dozen of other teams that are crushing it too behind the scenes that we don't see. We're left in the dark about those things, we get it, but if it can be talked about, Bungie, post some of your W's. I promise we would love to hear them. Like I love the tech blogs. If anything happens behind the scenes that makes things easier on you, we would love to hear about it. But to close out, like the core game is what we mostly play. Again, the same strikes, the same PvP maps, same Gambit maps. It's a tale as old as time now. Go get your Lost Sector exotic, go do your Nightfall, go see Grandma for your cookies. We have things like the ranking and leveling of XP, that needs a look at, almost an overhaul. There's a ton to make better, but in the end, the substance of the game is the Comet. Beyond Light campaign, Witch Queen campaign, it's going to be the Lightfall campaign. That's where the meat is. But the in-between, I think that we need a better loop. We need a shake-up. What we've been getting has been, again, painfully predictable. There's a lot that this game does good. I love this game. I got a degree in radiology, but I'm making Destiny content. I've never had a game make me want to do a YouTube video or YouTube content. Destiny's the only one that's ever done that. Like I said, I'm going to continue to play it, cover it, but a lot of this has been frustrating. The PvP side, back-end systems, they get tinkered with. PvE, it has its things too. But the main topic of the discussion here is it feels like it all does spawn from putting all the effort into the future instead of nurturing the content that's already there. If anything is lost in translation today, that's fine, but that's my number one thing. It is trust and good faith. That goes for both parties involved, Bungie and the player. Because on our end, when something is shaky, when something is off, when there's something that we don't like, we put trust in them. And in good faith, they're going to get it right. But at the timing of this video, and one of the reasons why I wanted to make it, why I put it in the title, a lot of people don't think that anymore. A lot of people don't trust that they will. A lot of people don't have that good faith. And on Bungie's end, it's the same thing. Trust us, we'll make it right. In good faith, it's going to be better. So let's do that. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. You rock. Let's talk about it down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching. And until the next one, I am CoolGuy.